Good evening. My name is Jeff Van Landingham, and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank the Desert Powwow Committee for asking me here. It is certainly an honor and a privilege to be standing here in front of you. It's an honor and a privilege to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't feel that way when I was new, let me assure you, but it's been pounded into me, and I've taken enough action where the emotion has followed. I got kind of steered off your anonymity statement that was read. I've noticed they're reading the anonymity statement more and more now, it seems, at conferences. I think that's a good thing. I decided to do a little research on anonymity. Found out it's the spiritual foundation of our traditions. Who knew that? And seems to be important. But I was reading something on that Bill Wilson had wrote about it, and kind of talked a little bit more about why it's important as I continue to go through Alcoholics Anonymous. Because when I was new, I understood the concept of anonymity meant, you can come here and we're anonymous. We're not going to tell anyone we saw you here, who you see here, what you see here, let it stay here kind of a thing. And that's great, and that's true. But as I go, my anonymity becomes important for me not to rise out of Alcoholics Anonymous. That I don't start to take the actions and the things that I do here so important that all of a sudden I'm helping A instead of it's helping me. I didn't know that when I was a year sober. When I was a year sober, I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. And A was the only game in town for me, and I was really, really proud over what I was doing. I mean, I was helping people and doing things I'd never done before and trying to learn God's will and all these great things. Nothing wrong with that, except the problem was I'd be going on dates, and I'd just be telling this stuff just willy-nilly. And in dramatic fashion, too, let me assure you. I remember being with a girl and say, listen, if this phone rings right here, I got to go save someone's life, okay? So, you know what, I'm AA, man, and alcoholism's my foe, and I don't know. I am very glad to be here, and believe me, I belong here. I want to thank also, it's kind of special for me, my wife was able to accompany me on this trip, and that's great. We are celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary, and I hope you're applauding AA. And it's nice to have her here because I love her and I spend time with her. On a more practical side, it's nice to have a travel companion for me because I get into these goofy jams, and I don't mean to, but 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to a conference in Bozeman, Montana, and I had gotten up very, very early, and I was on the plane just out of it. And the lady next to me asked me, why are you going to Bozeman? And I'm like, well, I'm just going to see friends. Oh, really? What do these friends do? I don't know. I haven't met them yet. And it didn't occur to me that was a goofy remark. I just looked. She was giving me this weird blank stare, and I'm like, what? Do you know the people you're going to see? I mean, come on. So, didn't have any of that this time around. Lastly, I want to welcome you if you're new. I really do. I think that the purpose of roundups, the purpose of meetings and things is to try and carry a message, to enjoy fellowship, recover from alcoholism. But I always want to remember that I hope I can carry a message in any way, shape, or form, whether it's behind this podium or whether it's standing at the door. And I want to welcome you if you're new. Here's the thing I noticed. We are Alcoholics Anonymous, in case you didn't know. This is typical of who we are, I think. Here we are, and we're at this convention, and a very, very well-run convention. Charlie, you're doing a great job. This very well-run convention. We're in this beautiful facility, just gorgeous facility in Palm Springs, California. So if you're new, you're probably thinking, wow, look at AA. Look at these people go. Till we get up, we always inevitably will let our true colors show. And till we get up and say, welcome to... we think the 15th anniversary of the Desert Powwow. We don't know. Well, I'll tell you this. Those are the things that keep me coming back to AA. So, trust me. I don't belong anywhere else. I'm from North Dakota, and I'm not going to talk about my childhood very much. It's just boring, and I don't have the ability. I've heard speakers who do a great job. They're so eloquent, and I grew up in small town USA, and every fall the leaves turn a crisp golden brown, and they fall to the earth like an angel missing one wing. And I'm way too into self for insights like that. When leaves fell in my house, I'm like, I got to rake God, and I don't have anything. I just want to tell you this. I don't have alcoholic parents. I have a mother who, let me talk about my father. My father was in Vietnam. He got really drunk one night, and he couldn't remember what he did the next morning. He woke up, and he was petrified by that. Oh, my God, I can't remember what I did. He quit drinking right there on the spot. Come on, Dad, hang in there, you know. And, I don't know. I was somewhere one time and I mentioned that and they applauded it. I'm like, don't applaud that. I got to go to 4 meetings a week to do that. He just quit. And my mom would have one glass of wine on Christmas and she wouldn't finish it. And after my first stint through treatment, she gave that up, you know. She told me that she was not going to, I remember, she said, I'm not going to drink that stuff. It tries to kill my baby. And, yeah, well, I'm going to. So, here's what I do know, though. Something was wrong with me for a long time, going way back when. I have felt different and apart from the crowd, less than, insecure, inadequate, a racy mind, sensitive, all these different emotions. And I never knew why. I always felt unique and different. And on other days when my self-esteem would start to rise, I'd call it special. I feel special today. But it was always different. And I set out on a quest, an unconscious quest, to fix what was wrong with me. Now, for me, when I was in school, if you were looking at me from the outside in, you'd see this. I went out for a lot of activities. I was always trying something new. Nothing wrong with that. You know, you're ambitious. I want to be the best at what I do. There's still nothing wrong with that. I'm still on a great path for life. Problem with me is that you got to put the little asterisk at the end of it that includes my alcoholism. When I say I want to be the best at something, that's great. But I don't want to in any way practice or pay my dues at all. I just want to be a natural. And I'm not a natural at anything. So I just kept quitting and moving on to the next thing. And always looking for that thing that could fill that hole inside of me. And I've always said, you know, I would have much rather been a star on a bad team than a B player on a winning team. I'm out for myself. And I remember a coach one time telling me, he'd give me a lecture about, Jeff, there's no I in team. Oh, yeah? There's a me. And look it up. So, I was an optimist at heart. I always thought it would get better. I vividly can remember being in the 4th grade, you know, thinking, okay, I've been screwing off my whole life, but next year in the 5th grade, I am going to buckle down. I am going to apply myself, and it's all going to be different. And that just never seemed to happen. Never seemed to happen. Nothing I did. I would find little things and be okay for a little while, and then I'd just get restless, irritable, and discontent, and I would move on to the next thing. I didn't find an answer to what was wrong with me until I was 15 years old. When I was 15 years old, I found alcohol. A few years later, I would be sitting with a therapist trying to figure out what was wrong with me, and one of the things we deduced was that I had started drinking young, and we would cry about it. I would. I don't know. He should have. It was sad. And it's not young, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room know. I mean, North Dakota, if you're 15, we have people that are 10 years sober, for God's sakes. It's like, I'm glad AA works, but I was 15. And we went out and stole some alcohol and shot this stuff down, plugged my nose. And did I just get louder, or is that the mic? What? All right. Step back. Is God speaking through me now? That's never happened. Okay. So shot this alcohol down, and what I know is this: is that it made me feel different on the inside. That is the message. That is what alcohol can do for me. I can tell you all about consequences of my drinking, all of the trouble that I have gotten into, all of the stupid things that I have done. They are irrelevant. They are not in any way apply to my problem. And I knew that the first time I drank. This is what I have been missing. This is what allows me to become the person I've always wanted to be. I've always known there's a wonderful, special guy inside, and alcohol finally seems to allow that person to come out. Let me give you an example. I can remember years later when I was in high school, and I would go to a party. Now, I've got the type of mind that it just races uncontrollably. You remember, I feel inadequate, and I'm judging everything, and I'm judging what you're judging of me, and I'm just thinking, and all these different things. And I would stand at that party, and I would think, why did I come? How did I let people talk me into this? This is stupid. This is dumb. You know, I'm the only guy in this room with a long-sleeve shirt on, for God's sakes. What's the matter with me? It's the middle of July. God, you think I'd know better? And then some guy walks in, and this guy's always intimidated me because they just seem to get along. They seem to have this camaraderie and this bonding that I can never do. And this guy would walk in with his cool muscle T-shirt on and his hat on backwards, and he just looked slick. And I'd think, God, that guy's going to want to fight me. I know that. I'm going to lip off or do something. And then she would walk into the room. There's always a she in my life, a her in my life, and it's a girl I'm pursuing. Oh, I love her. And when I say I'm pursuing her, I don't mean I'm taking any action at all. I'm just staring at her a lot. If by chance she looks my way, looking away. And you find dating's not a big part of my story. And that is who I am. Sober. That is who I am. That is how the world looks to me. Now, I start drinking and things seem to change at the third or fourth drink, depending upon what I'm drinking. But things immediately start to change. First thing that happens is I seem to just stand up straight. It's just like I have a spine problem. And all of a sudden I can just stand up straight. God, am I glad I came. And I know you are. I'm making this party. And you know, I am the only guy in the long-sleeve shirt. Silly me. Rip it off, you know. Pull the Hulk Hogan. Wouldn't do that today. And walk over to him, that guy that had intimidated me so much an hour before, and let him know, hey, Buster, if you're looking for trouble, you don't want it right here, pal. Huh? And I go to her. And I'm not intimidated. I'm not anything. I've got the courage I've been wanting my whole life to let her know that destiny has brought us together. And she doesn't accept. She's not where I'm at. And I'm not bothered or hurt by that at all. I lock her in the bathroom until she agrees to go out with me. Keep in mind, when that ignorance is bliss drunk that we can get to, I don't understand why people are yelling at me. You know, hey, Jeff, you're being kind of a jerk. Why don't you knock me? She's the one who said no, for God's sakes. Talk some sense into her. And that's what alcohol does for me. So can you imagine when people started coming out of the woods telling me they were concerned about the way I drank? Yeah, I understand that. I'm going to get it under control, but giving it up seems a bit extreme, for God's sakes. This is the only thing that ever seems to have worked for me. Now, I have alcoholism, as I mentioned at the beginning. I want to tell you what by the way, I've always found it ironic that Alcoholics Anonymous really has no official definition of alcoholism. If there's an organization that would have one, wouldn't you think it'd be us? Nah. What is alcoholism? We're not sure. But we think you have it, and if you come with us, we can recover from it. So, good enough. But the doctor's opinion in our book specifically makes some statements about it. And the first thing it talks about is that I have a phenomenon of craving, that when alcohol enters into my body, a phenomenon of craving develops. I read that, thought that doesn't apply to me. I didn't know what it meant. I had to have it explained. I know. I do that a lot. And I have a phenomenon of craving. What does that mean? It means when I start to drink, my body breaks alcohol down differently, it seems, than other people. All I can tell you is this, is that my body, when alcohol goes into it, my body says, let's get some more of that right now. And I overshoot the mark. I would go out with the best of intentions. Drunks have the best of intentions. And I would go out with the idea of, I'm just going to get there. That's it. And every drunk in the room knows where there is. Your eyes are glossing over right now thinking about it. There. There is a place I can get when I'm drinking for about 30 seconds, and then off I go, and I drink the rest of the night, try and get there. But I want to get there, and I'm going to go on maintenance, and I could never seem to do that, and I would always overshoot the mark, and I could never understand why. And then when I overshoot the mark, I start doing things I didn't want to do. My intention was to go out and just have a good time, not end up here with this person, doing this, saying this, hurting people I love, making promises I know I'm going to break. That was never my goal. This was, I've gotten way out of hand, and you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to drink with that guy anymore, because he's trouble. I'm not going to drink tequila anymore because I seem to get in fights with it. And name it, off you go. You get into enough consequences, I suppose, and eventually you reach a point. If you're standing on this room, you've probably reached that point. And that is, I'm going to knock it off. I'm going to quit. That's just it. I'm going to quit drinking. Therein lies the second part of my illness, which is called a mental obsession of the mind to drink alcohol. I read that and I thought, that does not apply to me either. And because I don't sit around shaking all the time, needing a drink badly. It's not what it means. It means my mind over any given period of time will block out all ideas to the contrary on why I shouldn't take a drink for the insane idea that it will be different this time. And you can fill in the blank on what that is. I can remember being on a road trip with somebody and grabbing a beer out of a cooler and somebody saying, hey, I thought you quit drinking. Well, I did when I'm at home. And made sense. Made sense to me. Worst part is the people I hung out with made sense to them too. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, Jeff, cool. And so I have alcoholism. And a mental obsession of the mind allows me to take that first drink, and a phenomenon of craving allows me to overshoot the mark and get drunk, and bad things happen, and I wake up the next day remorseful with a firm resolution that I am never going to let that happen again. And I mean it. And that is cycle of alcoholism. And Sunday morning when I wake up and I feel so bad and I'm so grateful I didn't kill anybody or myself and my car seems to be at least runnable, everything's okay and I'm not going to do that anymore. And then Tuesday rolls around and things look different. And that is the trap I was on. I fell prey to the idea that if I could just move my circumstances, everything would be different. And I decided to get away from my hometown and go off to Minnesota. And it was all going to be different in Minnesota. Yeah, I know. I know. I've met a lot of people here tonight who are from Minnesota, so see where that theory led. But I'm always convinced, the problem, as you all know, is that I always take myself with. But I got down there convinced it was going to be different, and it's not different for me because I'm always taking myself right where I go. But I remember getting down to college and thinking, I'm not going to. It was the same guy that I was in the 4th grade, same little kid with the same resolution. All right, I've been screwing off my whole life, but this is college. This is the big time. You got to really apply yourself now. You got to do something about this, and I'm not going to worry about what people think about me. That's another thing. I've been a slave to the opinions of others. Everybody's got to like me in the room. Everybody. If there's 100 of you and 99 of you like me, I go to the 100th person. What is your problem? And that always bothered me. Yeah, I know. It always bothered me about I was like, why do I care? I don't even like that guy, but it hurts my feelings that he doesn't like me. I hate that emotion. I just hate it. I want to be macho and cool. You should be macho when every person walking down the street can hurt your feelings with a look. And what does that look mean? But I went down to college, and I wasn't going to worry about let me explain why, by the way, if you're new. Why do we care so much? The reason I care so much about what people think about me is that I can't seem to generate my own self-esteem. It's never enough. It's never good enough. It's never at the right time. So maybe if you tell me I'm okay enough, I'll feel okay about myself. I went down to college, and I was convinced that I'm not going to worry about what people think. I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to apply myself and be a nerd. That's what I said. I'm going to be a nerd, and I'm going to study. Because that's what I called people who did their homework and went to class, nerds. I don't call them that anymore. I call them sir and boss and things like that. Funny how that works. But I'm going to tell you, I was cool in 1988, baby. And so that didn't work. Let me just assure you of that my plan didn't work. And the book says we don't have an effective mental defense against the first drink. I remember I was in my room one night. I'd made this big vow I was going to quit drinking. And I'm the type of big mouth that I go and tell everybody that I'm quitting drinking. So that my humiliation is complete when I do start drinking, apparently. And I told everybody. And I was in my room. And one thing I've noticed about alcoholics sometimes is that we'll do a lot of tasks to avoid the task at hand. And what I mean is, I was supposed to study. This is my book, right? And I set it down, organized my book, sharpened pencils, combed my hair, do whatever, except read the book. And I was going through this ritual, and some people walked by, and they said, hey, we're going drinking. You want to go? Wait for me. And off I go. I don't even have a mental hesitation. I just go. And same old story. I got drunk and intoxicated, and she walked into the room again, and I went up to her this time, and I was just feeling on top of the world. I was feeling we're a place that alcohol can take alcoholics. It was right there. And I went up to her, and I said, listen, I don't know if you know this, but I've been following you around for the last few days, and they call that stalking, I found out, but... And I went on, and I just bore my heart. And I remember telling her, I think about suicide a lot, but I'm not going to do it now that I met you. And goofy. Yeah. So I don't know how long she let me ramble on, but finally she was sweet. I don't know why. Why is it my blackouts? I didn't black this out, but she looked up at me and she said, "You scare me and I want you to leave." And another symptom of my alcoholism is I sometimes tend to overreact in grandiose fashion. And I said, "Oh, you want me to leave, huh? I will leave. I'll go home and kill myself." Ha ha. And I think I'm proving a point. And I went home. Now, here's the difference. Let me tell you something about alcoholic suicide attempts. I know. I want to write a book on it someday. I've just failed alcoholic suicide attempts. But because most of my suicide attempts had a lot of goals and a lot of intent. A lot of them. But killing myself or hurting me in any way, not one of my goals. Trust me. Manipulating you, making you feel bad, making you want to treat me better. Yeah, all goals of my suicide. But dying? No. This was different. This was one I had finally had it. I was so frustrated with my life. I was so tired of feeling the way I was feeling. I was so tired of having no hope that I went home with a firm resolution to actually commit suicide. And I took a bunch of pills. And I was taking sleeping pills at the time and reached in, grabbed a bottle and took a handful of sleeping pills and just thought, that's it, I'm done. And a buddy of mine showed up. And he was frantic. He's like, "What happened?" I'm like, and I was kind of feeling proud about it because I'm the type, I say one thing and do another. But I'd made this big pledge that I was going to kill myself, and now, by God, I'd actually done it, going out on a high note. And I told him, I've taken these pills, and he's, "Oh my God, we got to get you to a hospital. You got to talk to a priest. If you don't talk to a priest, your soul will never be admitted to heaven." Well, I was so drunk that made sense. I'm like, let's go. And off we went. We got to the hospital. The nurse come out and frantic. She's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "I took a bunch of pills." And she said, "Do you have the bottle?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I held it up. She grabbed it from me, looked at it, and she started laughing. And now let me tell you something. You know what? I'm going to stop my talk right there. I'm going to leave you in suspense as to whether I lived or died. And let me tell you something. If you're new, you probably want to know, am I alcoholic or not? That's really the main question. And we have 21 questions here, pamphlets that will help you decide. One little problem, I'm a little cute for those. I remember reading them and thinking things like, do you drink to relax? Well, everybody does. That one doesn't count. And do you ever have any blackouts? None that I remember. And just too smart for my own good. And so I want to come up with some 21 questions that I think, apply to alcoholism and alcoholics. For example, things like this. Do you take compliments badly? You ever notice that about alcoholics? Walk up to me and tell me nice tie. What, this? No, I've had this. I got it on sale. It's like, just shut up and say thank you. But I can't do that. Have you ever been given a talk by somebody that's concerned about you, about how much potential you have? You ever gotten this lecture? Oh, yeah, okay, good, I'm home. And I've been getting this talk my whole life. I've always thought it was a good thing. I've always thought it's the one shred of decency, the one thing I had to cling on to when I got here. I remember talking to my sponsor, and I've burnt everything out by this time, and telling him I got a lot of potential. And I don't know what I thought he was going to do with that. Oh, really? Well, we're going to fast track you on the AA rocket to success. If you don't got to go with these steps, don't worry about that. Remember, my sponsor dashed my hopes on that. He said, "Do you know what potential is?" No, kind of. It's good. I know that. I got a lot. I know that too. He said, "It's unused energy. That's what you're bragging about." He said, "Hey, I got a lot of unused energy." Well, it doesn't sound as good coming out of your mouth as it does in my head. God's sakes. He went on to explain, he's like, "Do you know all the famous and successful historical figures, they're never described as having potential. Never. You never hear people say, boy, Abe Lincoln had a lot of potential. You know why? Because he used his, for God's sakes." All right. But I've been clinging to that like a badge of honor, let me tell you. So when I was standing in front of that nurse, and she's laughing at me, I'm thinking, this isn't funny, woman. Funny at all. It's a sad, sad day that a man of my potential is leaving this world. And till she held the bottle up, She goes, Jeff, what you took were vitamin C tablets. So I lived and earned a trip to the psych ward. And isn't that just a weenie way to go to the psych ward, too, when you think about it? What are you in for? Oh, God was telling me to kill my dog. How about you? Took too many vitamin C. Actually, maybe it's not when you think about it. Anyway, psych ward. And guy came in to talk to me in my padded room. The first 24 hours, they wouldn't even come in and see me. They just did those door slit things. What the, I don't know about you, but when I wake up sober, I'm always like, hey, woo, that was wild last night, but I'm better now. Mr. Van Lanningham, we're not going to come in. He's like, I'm not Hannibal Lecter in here, for God's sakes. It's like, offended me and hurt my feelings. So they suggested that I go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was 19 at the time. I was not too pleased with this, but I wasn't in a position to argue. And I did. I went to an AA meeting, and it was in Moorhead, Minnesota. At the time, it was held in a shopping mall, for God's sakes. And there was a bunch of people standing around that looked similar to this. They were dressed up and smiling and happy and shaking hands and all this good stuff. And I, of course, knew this wasn't the AA meeting. They must keep these poor people down in a basement somewhere or something. So I'm slinking around, and finally I just waltz over to some guy, and kind of in my best inconspicuous voice, I was like, do you know where the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous is? And the guy was taller than me, and he kind of looked down at me, and he's like, this is the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm like, dude, keep it down. There's people everywhere. Because I got this big rep I got to protect, apparently. Because going to the psych ward apparently didn't damage it. And he's like, no, these people they're all with us. And when did this become an us deal? And it seemed like he whistled. I know he didn't, because I know this guy now, but it seemed like he whistled. And, and just everybody lined up, military style. And they started shaking my hands and rattling off slogans and cliches. And, a guy would come by, hey, how you doing? I'm Dave. I'm alcoholic first and first. And, hey, thanks, Dave. That should help me sleep tonight. Appreciate that. And they kept going, and then finally the last guy in line he's like, hi, my name is Rick, and I'm alcoholic, and you may not know this, but you're the most important person here tonight. And that one got me. I'm like, by God, he's right. I am. Why don't you get me some coffee, Snapper? And I didn't say that. I thought it. I know what Rick meant, but anyway, I went into the meeting, and there was a lot of laughter. I was sensitive to the things they laughed at. Guy got up and talked about, it seemed to me, he talked about what a goofy he used to be, and he bouncing checks, and his life was unmanageable, and everybody laughed. I thought they were laughing at me, and I left AA to punish it, and never went back. Well, obviously I went back, or I wouldn't be standing here, but anyway, I went back for the next 2 years with the idea that I can quit drinking on my own. Now, I really believe this in my heart. I can quit drinking on my own. I just have to come up with the right plan. And let me tell you a couple that didn't work. Here was my first. I went out. Do they got Schlitz beer in California? Nice. Okay, I hated it. No offense. And so I went out and bought a case of it because I'm quitting drinking. And put it under my bed. And then I sat down and I had one of those conversations that we alcoholics will have with ourselves. And I'm like, all right, stupid. Here's the deal. If I get so sick that I want to drink, then I got to drink these 24 warm, nasty Schlitz beers. And I'm going to tell you right now, nobody's sick enough to drink 24 warm, nasty Schlitz beers. Wrong on that one, let me tell you. Next thing I did was I decided that I was going to get a tattoo. This one was beautiful. I was going to get a tattoo because tattoos are forever and permanent and be a symbol of my sobriety. So I went in. Yeah, this is golden. Went in and told the tattoo artist my whole story, which he didn't need to know. And but I like to. And I said, I want Wiley Coyote from the Roadrunner cartoon, because he's always falling off a cliff and can't ever catch what he wants, and I identify. And I want Wiley Coyote, and I want his eyes bloodshot, because it's going to be the eternal hangover. And the plan is this. If I ever think about going back to that evil seductress alcohol again, all I will ever have to do is look at this tattoo and be reminded of the horrors that drinking causes me, and I'd never go back. Good plan. It may have worked. I wouldn't know because I put the tattoo on my back. And I'm thinking about drinking. Yeah, I don't see any reason. Let's go. By the way, somebody last month asked me, though, is that story real? I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm telling it in an AA meeting. So if you want to know, it's right there. And you can ask me in the line, and I'll show it to you. So anyway, long story short, I ended back up in Alcoholics Anonymous at the ripe old age of 21. And I'm still convinced I was probably the youngest person ever to go. And I went with a little bit of open-mindedness. And for my first 6 months, and the reason I went, I'm sure you don't need to, but I was just dying. I was dying of alcoholism, and I didn't know what was wrong, and I didn't know how my life had gotten so out of control. And I didn't know what was the matter with me, was the bottom line, and I had no hope. So I started going to meetings. My first 6 months, I just did what I wanted to do. I just took up space. I didn't have a sponsor. People like me don't need a sponsor. I would sit in the corner and give you my best stay the hell away from me look. But I had nothing to contribute, nothing. I mean, literally, the topic, I remember one night being at a meeting, and they were like, tonight the topic is fear. All right, fine. I'd start sharing for 10 minutes on ghosts and tarantulas, and, I was like, I don't know. Just an idiot. And so, at 6 months of sobriety, I left my house absolutely stark raving mad. Now, keep in mind, I've always had people telling me that, you got to quit drinking, you got to quit doing this. Well, here I was. I'd finally done it. I'd joined AA. I'd made this great big ego sacrifice, or so I thought, and I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'd quit drinking, and I'm not better. I'm not better at all. I still cry myself to sleep at night. My head just goes so fast, I just want to put it in a vice sometimes and just tighten it until it just not kill myself, just pops a little bit. And I am not better, and I don't know what's wrong with me. And I left my house with a desire to either kill myself, get drunk, or go to one last AA meeting. And by the grace of God, I went to one last AA meeting and went in there and threw myself on the table almost literally. And just said, I am dying of alcoholism. I haven't drank in 6 months, and somebody needs to help me. I'll pass. And, etiquette. And I went around the room, and it was like, I don't know if anyone just wasn't listening to me or what, but nobody acknowledged anything. I just got fired. You think you got it bad? And, okay. And went around the room, and there was a lady there, and she came back to me, which I was grateful for, and she said, Jeff, listen, if you don't like the way you're living, I got some suggestions for you. Why don't you get a home group? Why don't you get a sponsor? Why don't you quit worrying about not drinking the rest of your life? Just try not drinking today. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking, that's all good and well. So I was grateful on one hand, and then on the other hand, I'm like, what the hell kind of advice is that? I'm dying here. And it turns out it was the exact advice I needed. Exact advice I needed. Now, keep in mind, alcoholics are egomaniacs with inferiority complexes. This one's always baffled me on how we can do this. We can experience two opposite emotions almost simultaneously. It's quite a gift. It doesn't do anything, but it's quite a gift. And I'm sitting at that meeting, and I'm ready to kill myself again. I feel so ugly and black inside and so hopeless that I can't bear to even live another day. Someone's just suggested to me that I get a sponsor, and I start thinking, who am I going to bestow the greatest honor of their life with and sponsoring me? And I started looking around the room, and started asking people. And I was told no 7 times. You know what a big honor this is? Do you know how much potential I have, for God's sakes? And now, I say that not as a reflection in any way, shape, or form of North Dakota Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not happening today, nor would it probably have happened maybe any other night. But I do believe that God brought me to the person I needed to be with. And as I got down the list, my standards started to broaden out a little bit. And there was a guy that used to come to the meeting, and he was always happy. And he was always yakking about AA. And I had been told to avoid him. A guy said, you see that guy? He thinks you can be happy in AA. You better stay away from him. I will do that. I went to that guy. And I said, listen, and I just told him my story. And he said, yeah, I'd be glad to help you. There's some things I want you to do, though. I'm going to ask you to participate in your recovery. Yeah, all right. What does that mean exactly, you're going to take action. All right, like what? Help you move or something someday? He's like, yeah. Boy, that came true. Many times over. No, he said, no, I want you to meet with me, and we're going to go to my home group, and we're going to go through the book, and we're going to get involved. All right. And I had nowhere else to go. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes the best friend I've ever had in my recovery has been desperation. When I have no other place to go, when I have no other door to try, that's when I finally go. And I made a deal with the devil that night. I really did. And he started meeting me, and we would go through the book, and he'd let me whine about things, and people weren't treating me right. And he got me to the meeting, and he started getting me active in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he started pushing me to do things that I did not want to do. I was convinced I was the coffee cup cleanup guy, and I was convinced, I'm so self-centered and convinced that A, the job was set up to demean me, and B, that they'd run around and told everybody, hey, don't pick up your coffee cups, we got Goofy here to do it, that'll be good for him. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently 14 years later, they're still doing it to demean me, so... And I got that job, and I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous now, and I'm working with my sponsor, and he's tricking me into doing things that I don't want to do. For example, he'd say, we're going to go speak at the hospital on Saturday night. You coming? Yeah, I suppose. He's like, well, I'll pick you up at 5. Geez, that seems kind of early. The meeting starts at 8, for God's sakes. But, he was always busy on, we got to get there and greet, so all right. So he'd pick me up, and we'd take off out of town. Now, keep in mind, I've got 4 sponsee brothers in the car with me. And I'm on the back middle hump, and and we're going out of town, 100 miles away. Oh, we're going to Bismarck, speak of the hospital. Didn't I tell you that? No, you didn't tell me that. But I'm stuck back there, and that's a bad deal right there. But let me make it a little worse. There's always one sponsee, I've always referred to him as the good one, and he's in the front because he was on time, and I had this guy, and he pulls out As Bill Sees It. He goes, hey, I got a great idea. He said, how about I read from As Bill Sees It? And then we can guess what it's from. Is it from the big book, the grapevine, a letter? And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm like, wait, no. You told me I'd be rocketed into the 4th dimension. Not playing the what the hell did Bill write this in game, no. But the nice thing is that, thank God, Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't care what I think, doesn't care what my motives are even half the time. It just cares that I'm in that car taking the right action. And thank God, because I've spent a lot of my time trying to think my way into better living, and it doesn't work, and I go insane from it. But Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me that I can live my way into better thinking. Because my thinking's broke, make no doubt about it. And if you've not picked that up yet, buy the tape. And there's something wrong with it, and I cannot seem to fix it on my own. But I can control my actions, and I can control what I do. And if I do that long enough, my thinking will start to follow. So because I am taking these actions, like I'm pretending like I want to be there, I'm pretending like I want to help someone, the thinking is starting to follow. And so I got to be a year sober, and everything's starting to get a little better. But I'm still missing something. I don't know what it is. Went to my sponsor, and I said, look, I'm not getting it still. The good one's still ahead of me, and I'm trying to catch him. And he said, well, you should be working with others. Oh, gee, that wasn't the answer I wanted. And all right. He's like, well, why don't you go down to the jail tonight? We've made a commitment to pick people up and bring them to the meeting. All right, fine. Now, I go down and pick this guy up, and we go to the meeting. Total silence. And I'd get to the meeting, and I'd be like, I don't feel any better. I picked this guy up. Nothing happened. Well, what'd you talk about? Nothing. The guy didn't ask me anything, for God's sakes. And he'd say, well, did you ask him anything? Like, no. Why would I? Who cares? And you thought it. And they'd explain to me things. They'd be like, well, because selfishness and self-centeredness are the root of your problem, and it's going to kill you. Drinking's not your problem. Selfishness is. I argued that point, by the way. Don't do that with your sponsor. But I argued that point one time. I said, I don't think that's true for me at all. He's like, really? I'm like, no. I said, I think about myself maybe 50% of the time, which probably puts me in the norm. And I certainly don't run around trying to get my own way all the time. If anything, I'm selling myself out all the time to get people to like me. He's like, so you think about yourself 50% of the time? I'm like, yeah. What do you think about that? And he goes, what do you think about the other 50% of the time? What you people think of me. And, oh, that's selfishness? Oh, well, sign me up. And he explained this to me, and he explained to me that if I'm the problem, I've got to get out of myself somehow. I've got to feign interest in someone else. Good. And so I would get in the car now, and Scott's told me I've got to ask questions of this guy. Now, bear in mind, I'm not a good conversationalist. I'm just not. I'm too scatterbrained. I'm too worried about what people are thinking. I'm easily distracted. It's hard for me. And I'm in the car with this guy, and I'm going to tell you right now, with new people, they don't make it easy on you at all, because they give you one-syllable, monotone answers. That's what they do. So I'd be in the car, and I'd be like, God, I got to ask questions. All right, what'd you think of the meeting? Fine. All right, good. So how's it going? Good. Whew, all right. And probably wondering that I didn't ask the most obvious question, what are you doing in jail? Because I was always afraid the answer would be, well, a guy giving me a ride home asked too many questions, so I killed him. All right. Let's just shut her down. So, the funny thing is, though, it's kind of the ugly underside of spiritual actions. It really is. I was taking them. I wouldn't have known it. I said, no way I am not. I'm not doing anything. But I kept doing this. I kept doing it for a variety of reasons. I had nowhere else to go. I secretly wanted my sponsor to like me, and I hated that. I hated that about myself, but I did. I wanted to impress him, and he was impressed when I did things for others. So I would do things for others. Taking the actions would continue to move me along. When I got to be 2 years sober, I was still convinced. I knew I belonged in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I also knew that underneath it all, there was still something desperately, horribly wrong with me. I knew that. And I listened to a tape. I've never, ever mentioned this from a podium. And I may never again, but I've never had this opportunity. I listened to a tape of a speaker, and he described to a T what I had. It was so stunned I had to pull over and just sit and stare at the steering wheel. And I remember thinking, why are those people laughing? They couldn't possibly get it. That guy is describing what I have, and apparently he has, and we must be the only two. And that identification had allowed me finally, whatever last things were holding me back from fully being an Alcoholics Anonymous, it allowed me to strip those away and to finally come into the light, if you will, and know that I belong here. And that speaker was Clancy. Clancy, I thank you, sir. You do a lot of good for a lot of people. And so I'm 2 years sober. I got a job. Now I know I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. Met a her, and she had something I'd been looking for a long time, which was interest in me. You seem to like me. That's an attractive quality, and but we worked together. So I went to my sponsor. I said, hey, I started with this job, and I'm working with this girl, and I want to date her. My sponsor said, it's not a good idea to date people you work with. I said, no problem. I'm an active AA member. I went down and quit my job. And there's always a loophole. And we started off on this relationship that I'm an idiot to be in a relationship with. I just am. And here's the best synopsis I can give you of what it's like to be in a relationship with me. This is Heidi and I. I'd be sitting there, and she'd be like, what's the matter? You haven't told me you love me. Oh, well, I love you. That didn't sound sincere. Well, I love you. Well, I had to tell you to be sincere. Now it's disingenuine. I mean, come on. And I think the message that I sent, although I didn't put the words out there, where I want you to treat me special today and a little better tomorrow for the rest of our lives, and we'll be fine. And we had a lot of fights and, oh God, all kinds of stuff. And what ended up happening one night, I'm the type I get into these fights, and I'm so full of fear, and I'm so full of rage, and I always want to do things to gain what I feel. If I'm losing control, I want to gain it back. And I do that through veiled threats I don't in any way really intend to carry out. But one night, accidentally, I'd given her a promise ring, and I said, give me the ring, it's over. She made the mistake of giving it to me, and I whipped it down the street. And I thought, oh my God, what did I just do? Because I'm the type of person, I do these stupid, horrible things, and I feel terrible about it. And I thought, I am going to feel so bad about this. I don't know if I'm ever going to bounce back. Now keep in mind, when I started dating her, I was a little insecure, a little paranoid, a little jealous. And so I had to slow down on some of the AA stuff so I could watch her to make sure she was behaving. And it's hard to go to meetings when you're calling 60 times a day to make sure she's home. And I threw this ring out, and I thought, God almighty. And I said, Heidi, I am so sorry. We've got to find that ring. We've got to find it. And we went out to find it. It's the middle of the night. And we can't find it. And I said, fine, it's dark, we'll wait, and we'll get up in the morning when it's light, and we'll see if we can find it. And a street cleaner starts coming down the street. And I thought, oh, my God. And I started praying right then and there, and I started saying, God, listen, I am not going to bounce back from this, but you help me out this time. I swear I will never say no to AA again. I will go back. I will get active. I will do anything that I've ever asked to do if it's in my grasp to do. And as I was saying that prayer, Heidi goes, oh, my God. And she dropped her knees and found the ring. And I had like 10 seconds of like, thanks, God. And I thought, oh, my God, what the hell have I just got myself into? My gratitude tends to fleet. But I kept my end of the bargain, and I got back into Alcoholics Anonymous. And the funny thing is that when I got back into Alcoholics Anonymous, our relationship seemed to get much, much better. And kind of bummed me out. It kind of let me know I was most of the problem. And so we got married, and that was fine and dandy. And I had a big AA wedding. Everyone in it was in AA. And the flower girl at the time was 5. She's now in AA. I blame myself. And and everything's going along great. And we decided we want to have a baby. And we're taking all the actions on that one. And it just wasn't happening. And I remember each week, and to make it worse, I don't know if I should share it. I'm going to share this because California can handle this. To make it worse, we want to have a baby. We're married. I'm an active member of AA now. I'm sponsoring people. I'm doing things. I have a job in my home group. I'm doing all you're supposed to. And we want to have a baby, and we should have a baby. Well, we're not. We're not having a baby. Every month we're finding out we're not. Meanwhile, each sponsee of mine is having illegitimate children out of wedlock like nobody's biz. I mean, come on. And so we finally, one night, convinced that, I remember I had this cigar. I was going to light it, because that's what you do when your wife's pregnant. You light a big cigar in front of her. And took this test, and it was negative. And I went up, and when I'm finally beaten down enough, I will start talking to God. And I said, all right, finally, I get it. I'll go with your will. And how big of me. And I said, we'll look at other options. We'll adopt. We'll get a dog. I don't know. And but ultimately what it boiled down to was I said, God, I accept your will. I really do. And I meant it. And I got up the next morning. I went to the bathroom, and it turns out that we were just a little impatient. The test was positive, and she was pregnant. And I thought, by the way, I had discovered the secret to life. I went up the next night, and I'm like, God, I'm totally fine with the fact that I am not financially rich. I don't need to be. I don't want to be. It doesn't work. So we had a baby boy, and my son's middle name is Wilson, named after Bill Wilson, which we thought was fitting because we wouldn't have him if it wasn't for this program. 17 months later, we had a daughter. My wife, who doesn't understand the importance of AA in my life, vetoed Abigail, Dr. Bob, but come on now. And we're cruising along, and we've got this life. And I've got Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. And I get up and take these actions that I've talked about, and everything's just going great. And the problem is, I'm me. And when I got here, I somehow, somewhere along the lines, got it into my head that everything's going to be beautiful now. And I deserve it to be beautiful because I do a lot of things. I'm the same guy, that idiot I talked about at the beginning. This guy, I'm doing a lot of good things in AA, so a lot of good things should happen to me. But that's really not the deal I made here. And it's not the deal anyone offered me when I got here. When I got here, people told me you can have a chance to have a life. And I took that deal. I was thrilled to take it when I was new. But somewhere along the lines, arrogance built back up and expectations and all these things. And so I started going through life, and things happen. And, for example, I remember being 10 years sober. I was 10 years sober, and I had a difference of opinion with a boss. And that would be I like me, and she didn't. And let me go. And I found myself unemployed all of a sudden. Except I've been taught what to do in those situations. I've been taught that I take the action and God will take care of me. I don't have to worry about fixing my life all the time. I got to get out and try and help other people. So that's what I would do. It would seem insane to the average person. What are you doing? You're unemployed and you're running around helping other people? Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. And about a week in, a guy called me who was in AA, who lived in Jamestown, and he said, listen, this is ridiculous that you're unemployed. I want you to come work at this company and be our marketing director. All right, well, that's fine. And do you know I've never taken a marketing class or read a marketing book? And I got a great AA answer. He's like, wow, what the hell's that matter? We learn in the doing. And I'm like, sign me up. So that's what I do. And it's really cool because I can tell my boss how little experience I really have. And so I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and what I can tell you tonight is that I have just what I said. I've spent a lot of my time in AA. Sometimes I get these periods of grayness. I get these periods of unclarity where I don't know what's wrong, and I'm questioning what am I doing, or am I doing it wrong? And I've come to discover exactly what is at the root cause of most of those times. It's just this. I spent some time mad that God's will's not going my way today and fearful that it's not going to go my way tomorrow. I've spent a lot of my time wasting time on stuff like that. And I've come to the realization finally, and it took me a while, that that's not how I'm supposed to live life. I'm going to do things and screw things up. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm certainly not a perfect AA member. And sometimes I'm going to suffer consequences for my actions. But what I have come to discover in a relationship that I have formed with God through our 12 steps, through sponsorship, through meetings, through all these different things, is that He will never abandon me. That's the thing I've come to discover, and what a wonderful thing it is to have that. If this room is my recovery, there's a lot of exits to this room. I got to have things posted at all these doors to make. I got to have a sponsor over here, and I got to have guys that I'm sponsoring over here. 12 steps and our 12 traditions and concepts and roundups and commitments and all these different things to allow me to stay here. You know, they used to have a saying, they maybe have it here. We used to say it in North Dakota a lot, that stay in the middle of the bed and you won't fall off. For me to stay in the middle of the bed, I got to stay busy. I got to do a lot of things. And sometimes I don't always want to do that. Lately, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I leave on weekends sometimes. And sometimes I get down about that. And I think, you know, I'm missing out on quality time with my family. You know, and I just don't know if that's fair. Is it quality time that I'm missing out on, though? Keep in mind, in my head, this is what I've got. This is what I'm missing. Everybody's gathered around arguing over who gets to give me the next compliment. And, no, my turn. We haven't heard from you in a couple minutes. What do you think of me? That's quality time in my world. And is it that, though? Is that the time that I'm missing? Or is it me going on some horrific dry drunk, yelling at my kids, scaring them, treating their mother bad? I don't know. I don't want to find out. So I'm going to stay here. Sometimes I'm just like a guy who's whistling to keep the elephants away. Well, there's no elephants around here. Exactly. And you can thank me for that. Let me just do this. I said at the beginning, and I'm going to tell you again, Alcoholics Anonymous is the best thing that has ever happened to me. It is the best thing that has ever happened to me. It's the last door in the hall for me. I tried everything else. I've tried medications, and I've tried doctors, and I've tried tests, and I've tried figuring it out, and all kinds of things, and it doesn't work. And AA is, as I said, it's an honor and a privilege to be a member. And I didn't always feel that way, but it is an honor and a privilege to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be standing here, and it's an honor and a privilege to be at my home group in Jamestown, North Dakota. It's just wonderful. Let me just give you a quick... My life's good today. It is. It's much, much better. I'm sick and goofy and I'll screw things up, but I have a sponsor. My sponsor can get me out of anything I get myself into. You know, by the way, I don't know how I'm doing on time. How am I doing on time? Well, then hell, I'm going to tell this story. I wasn't going to because of time. But here's the way my mind works, by the way, and this is why I have a sponsor. Because my mind is alcoholic, and what that means is that I have two speeds. Fast and stop. Black and white. Let's do it perfect, screw it. And... that's all I have, and especially in times of crisis, during these code red times, I call them. And when I call my sponsor in code red, I can produce options A and options B, and that's it. So last summer, for work, I was flying out to New York, and I don't even know how, I didn't know this was possible, but I was sitting there in the terminal and on my phone, saving somebody's life, and... I was so enthralled with what God's work I was doing that I didn't even get on the plane. The next thing I looked up and the door was shut and the plane was leaving. I'm like, how the hell does that happen? Didn't somebody come along? I mean, like, you look like you're in self. You should probably get on the plane. And I was horrified. And I didn't know what to do. And I panicked and I ran out to my truck. I was crying. And I called my sponsor, Dick. And I said, and so dramatic, you know, Dick, it's code red. And... I don't even know what that means. What am I implying with that exactly? I know you normally don't try, but for God's sakes, pay attention this time. And, you know, it's just stupid. But I call him up, and I'm like, Dick, it's code red. And here's what happened. I missed this plane, and I don't know what I'm going to do. What should I do? Here comes options A and B. Should I just go back to work and just tell him this whole hideous story of what happened and how I just missed this plane and it cost $1,000 for that ticket and just get fired? Or is this one of those times where it's spiritually acceptable to lie? And then I waited, for the answer, because that's why I have a sponsor. And Dick said, well, how about you do this? How about you get your butt on the next plane? 40 years I see working there, and all right. I didn't even see it. I just didn't even see it. That's why I have a sponsor. I have a sponsor because he guides me. I have a sponsor because he provides me with an unemotional point of view. I have a sponsor because he gives me someone, a physical, tangible being that I can see, that I can hear, that I can touch, that I can develop a relationship in, that will eventually lead me to a relationship with God. But I always want to keep the sponsor right there as my stepping stone. I do. I just heard a guy the other night at a meeting telling he now no longer needed a sponsor because he developed such a close contact with God that God would sponsor him. Yeah, well... makes me nervous, too. I don't know. My God tends to tell me things that I just can't fathom are God's will. You should be more selfish and take care of yourself. Yes, sir. Anyway. I have a sponsor. Here I am and married, and I believe in my heart that... I'm going to be okay because I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have stories where everything just gets wonderfully better all at once. We have all kinds of issues. There's always some obstacle that seems to come up. But I do know this. I'm living a life that I, in and of myself, do not have the power to live. I don't know that I deserve it necessarily, but for the grace of God in this program. Here's a couple examples of what I am talking about. Let me tell you my relationship with my father quickly. When I was drinking one night, I called my dad, and I said to my mom, put him on the phone. When I was younger, my parents used to fight. It wasn't even anything real serious, but they used to fight and push each other around. And I got my dad on the phone, and I lived in Fargo at the time, and he lived 300 miles away. And I said, you stay on this phone, because if you don't, I'm going to drive home drunk and probably kill myself. You hang up, and I'm going to do that. And I want you to hear what I have to say. And for the next hour, all this blackness and ickiness that I have inside of me just came out on him. And I just spewed it on him. And my dad would sit there, and he would say, Jeff, that's enough. Stop, please. I can't take it anymore. No, listen, you son of a bitch. You're going to hear this. That's the kind of person I was. That's the kind of son I was prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, it'd be a nice story if I told you now my dad and I give each other big bear hugs and everything. We don't do that. But I'll tell you this, when we see each other, we do hug each other. I do tell him I love him. He tells me he loves me. I put him in a position where he can be a grandfather to his grandkids, and we have a cordial relationship. I'll take that. I will take that because of Alcoholics Anonymous. If that's all I get, fine. Things are much, much better. I have a son who's 6 now, and I get on tangents. I don't know if anyone does this. I don't believe in hobbies for alcoholics. I just don't. I'm sorry. And I'll tell you why. Because this is me and a hobby. First of all, hobbies. I think people telling drunks to get hobbies is where most of these 12-step programs came from anyway. Why don't you get a hobby? You know what? I think I'll try gambling and see if that fixes it. This doesn't work. And the other problem with hobbies is that I go way overboard. For example, I'm going to be a rock climber. And so the first thing I got to do is go out and get one of those cool spandex outfits. A big-ass rope that I don't know what it does. One of those hammers. Some cool shades. Subscribe to Rock Climbing Magazine. And do all that. And then realize I live in North Dakota. We don't have any mountains, for God's sakes. What the hell am I doing? And quit without ever actually starting and feel horrible. So I don't do hobbies. I'm just not wired for them. I do tangents. I'm a great tangent guy. Tangents are this. You get way the hell into something for 6 months and burn out on it and then go to the next. Yeah, I can do tangents. And so last summer, I was on a cologne tangent. And yeah, it was beautiful. I'm not on it anymore. My sponsor took me off. But apparently he felt bills need to be paid or something. And I'm on this cologne tangent. I'm on the internet, man. I'm in chat rooms. I'm studying it. I'm talking the lingo. And I'm getting all these samples, and just, I don't know what I was just, apparently my goal is to be a pompous ass, because this has a great top note of sandalwood. And so I'm doing all that. And I've got these vials of samples in my room. And one day, half of them were gone. And I'm like, what what's going on? I thought maybe Heidi had decided my tangent was over. And but I asked her, and she didn't know anything about it. And the next thing you know, we found them, and they were in my son's room. And I thought, and I have a negative mind that always wants to be negative. I thought my son's a kleptomaniac, for God's sakes. So Heidi said, I'll handle this. And she talked to him, and she went to him, and she's like, Mark, did you take Daddy's cologne? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, why? He said, because I want to be just like him. That's what I get to have because I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the best thing I have in my life. If you're new, I want to welcome you. Don't leave here tonight without getting a sponsor. You're going to hear a lot of suggestions and a lot of things to do, but the best thing I can tell you, get a sponsor, get someone to help you with this thing, and hang on. Alcoholics Anonymous has been a ride for me, and it's had ups and downs and loops, and I've gone backwards and forwards, but my life progresses, and I have a lot of excitement and a lot of hope as to what's coming for the future, and I never used to have that. It's an honor standing in front of you. God bless.